Hello family. Welcome to Morales Stories, your home for gripping African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Now sit back and enjoy the drama. Lana Ellis stepped into the grand foyer of the Grand Meridian Hotel as if she'd done it 1,000 times before, poised, composed, flawless. Every eye in the lobby swung toward her sleek silhouette, the delicate blush-pink sheath dress that hugged her curves like a second skin. Her hair, a glossy cascade of dark waves, was pinned into an artful chignon, tendrils softened around her face. In one hand she carried a satin clutch, in the other, a crystal flute of champagne whose pale bubbles mirrored the sparkles overhead. Above, crystal chandeliers dripped light like raindrops into the polished marble expanse, their brilliance setting the scene for a night of high-stakes deal-making. She inhaled, tasting effervescence and perfume and ambition. The opal ballroom lay just beyond the towering double doors, an arena where fortunes could shift with a single handshake. At its center stood Nathan Cade, her husband, the visionary CEO of Cade Tech Systems. He was already amidst a cluster of investors, his tailored tuxedo and confident gait marking him as undisputed alpha. The way the men leaned in when he spoke, nodding along to every word, reminded Lana that in this world, perception was everything. Nathan looked up and saw her. A slow smile spread across his face, 1 part genuine affection and 2 parts ownership. He excused himself from the group and strode toward her. "Lana," he said, voice warm, controlled. "Just in time." He pressed a kiss to her fingertips, a gesture more symbolic than intimate. She returned his smile, crisp and measured. "I wouldn't miss it," she replied, her voice soft enough to keep strangers from eavesdropping. He offered his arm, and she linked hers through his. As they crossed the threshold together, the murmurs of guests swelled into polite applause. Camera flashes erupted along the sides of the room. Paparazzi, corporate photographers, and the odd smartphone all capturing the image of the perfect power couple. Lana kept her posture regal, her smile unwavering. In that moment, she was the emblem of success at his side, the supportive spouse, the ornament to his empire. They took their places at the reserved head table, draped in ivory linen and marked with discreet name cards, reserved for invaluable partners. Nathan sat first and patted the chair next to him, a silent command. She slid in beside him, adjusting her clutch in her lap. Around them, polished executives clinked glasses and whispered about quarterly targets and future rounds of funding. Ash, the head of one of their largest investing firms, raised his glass in greeting, and Lana offered a graceful nod. The lights dimmed. A hush rippled through the audience as Evelyn Price, chair of the Women in Tech Foundation, stepped forward. A few years ago, Evelyn had been the one advocate who insisted Lana present her own marketing research at a major conference, an opportunity that had cemented Nathan's early success. Lana's chest fluttered with a mixture of pride and pain as Evelyn's voice echoed through the hall. "Tonight, we celebrate the innovators rewriting the rules of technology. We honor the visionaries, the disruptors, and the silent forces who power our industry." Slides rotated behind Evelyn, profiles of female founders, each story a testament to resilience. And then, there it was, Lana Ellis's face, caught mid-speech as she'd unveiled her own project, a mental wellness gamification platform called Pulse. For a heartbeat, Lana's elation stirred. This was her moment. But the applause that followed was polite, the attention quickly redirected to Cade Tech's looming banner. Nathan leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. "Good speech," he whispered. "Reminds them why I backed you." The words carried a double edge, praise, yes, but also possession. He saw her as a branded asset, a venture co-founder in name only. Lana forced a nod. "Thank you," she said, her voice almost lost beneath the subdued clinking of glasses. The host then stepped up, microphone in hand. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the man of the hour, Cade Tech's own Nathan Cade." Spotlights converged on him, and the room erupted in applause. Lana watched him rise, studied the way his shoulders squared, the confident arc of his smile. He opened with glossy corporate rhetoric, year-on-year growth, strategic partnerships, projections so optimistic they left investors leaning in. Throughout his address, Lana felt invisible, like a shadow flickering at the edge of a spotlight. She sat upright, silk smooth against the curve of her chair, and feigned interest as numbers and charts scrolled behind him. When Nathan concluded with a flourish, "And I couldn't have done it without my dedicated team, and my greatest supporter, my wife Lana," He turned and gestured toward her. The cameras clicked again. Lana stood, heart pounding, and gave a brief wave. The applause was crisp but contained, as if the room recognized her role but reserved its true admiration for Cade Tekka's future trajectory. She sank back into her seat, cheeks warming beneath the many eyes watching her. Later, when the formalities concluded and the crowd drifted toward hors d'oeuvres, Nathan reached for Lana's hand. He guided her through clusters of partners and associates, introducing her as my champion of strategy, or the visionary behind our charity wing. While he reveled in the limelight, Lana rehearsed her usual lines: gracious gratitude, modest disclaimers, professional smiles. But beneath her composed exterior, a storm brewed. She thought of the presentation she'd prepared in secret, the one she'd titled Project Pulse, Empowering Resilience. She'd breathed life into that platform long before Cade Tech existed, coding late into the night, sketching wireframes at coffee-stained tables, refining pitch decks with meticulous care. She had shelved it for love, for partnership, for the life she now led. A waiter passed with a silver tray of smoked salmon canapes. Lana selected one and bit gently, tasting dill and cream cheese. Nathan glanced at her plate. "Save room for dessert," he said, his tone light but insistent. He steered her toward a table of chocolate mousse shooters. Investors love refined taste. She followed, every fiber of her being yelling to speak up, to announce her own vision. But tonight was Nathan's night. Her silence would be her armor. As the gala wound down, the orchestra struck up a soft waltz. Couples glided onto the small dance floor. Nathan offered his hand. "May I have this dance?" he asked, smile regal. Lana hesitated, then placed her hand in his. Their bodies moved in sync, his frame firm against her waist, her arm draped across his shoulder. They were a portrait of perfection, until the music swelled and Nathan dipped her just far enough to catch the eye of every lingering photographer. Lana's heart fluttered as cheers rose around them. But when Nathan straightened her, he whispered, "You were magnificent." In his praise she detected neither warmth nor intimacy, only acknowledgment of the show she had just performed. They returned to their table as the final notes faded. Nathan reached again for her hand, guiding her toward the exit. Outside, the valet held open the sleek black sedan's door. Lana climbed in, her dress whispering against the leather seat. Nathan slid in beside her. The engine purred, and the city lights blurred into ribbons of color. In the tinted glass, Lana caught her reflection: flawless makeup, steady gaze, controlled composure. But in her heart she felt the first stirrings of a question she could not yet name. What would happen if I stopped being silent? For now, the perfect pair would depart in silence. But behind Lana's calm exterior, her mind raced with possibilities, the faint promise of a tomorrow in which her voice would no longer be an echo beneath his. And as the car glided toward home, that promise felt more intoxicating than champagne. The Monday morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Cade Tekka's flagship headquarters, casting long diagonal shadows across the sleek marble lobby. Lana paused at the revolving doors, inhaling the scent of polished steel and fresh coffee. Behind her, the digital display board flashed Cade Tekka's latest user growth statistics, plus 18% monthly active users, Series C oversubscription, AI ethics panel this Friday. All of it Nathan's realm. Yet today, Lana felt a tremor of unease. She clutched her leather portfolio, inside, her own plans, wireframes and projections for Pulse, and joined the steady stream of engineers, analysts, and execs filtering into the 37th floor boardroom. The polished glass walls offered a panoramic view of the city skyline, a constant reminder that this was where power resided. And here, Lana was merely a guest. "Good morning, Mrs. Cade," murmured Sophia Reyes, Cade Tekka's head of investor relations, as Lana passed her desk. Sophia's smile was both warm and guarded. She knew Lana's pedigree, but also her position, the wife, advisor in title, not in authority. "Morning, Sophia," Lana replied, returning the smile. Her heels clicked on the marble floor as she entered the boardroom. Inside, a long mahogany table stretched nearly 20 feet, surrounded by high-backed leather chairs. At its head sat Nathan, reviewing his tablet, face composed. Around him, his executive team settled in: Raj Patel, CTO, Morgan Blake, COO, Elena Kim, Chief Marketing Officer, and, at the far end, Isabella Cruz, a major investor delegate. Nathan looked up and nodded. "Lana, glad you could join us." His tone was neutral, but his eyes flicked to her portfolio. We're discussing Q3 strategies today. Your insights welcome as always. Lana sank into the chair next to Elena, smoothing the front of her pencil skirt. Elena offered a sympathetic glance, an unspoken acknowledgement that Lana's voice rarely cut through this room. Raj began the meeting. Our development sprints are on track. The AI APIs are performing as projected, and the partner integrations with OmniSecure finish next week. He clicked a slide, graph lines climbing. Investors murmured approval. Morgan chimed in, our support tickets have dropped by 12% since last quarter's UX overhaul. Again, nods around the table. Then it was Elena's turn. Marketing outreach has hit all KPIs. Social engagement up 23%, conversion rates up 8%. We're ready to leverage these results for the IPO roadshow. She danced through her charts with practiced ease. Lana watched the flicker of confidence on Nathan's face. He leaned back, fingers steepled, satisfied. When Elena concluded, he gave a crisp, "Thank you, team. Now, I believe my wife has an interesting proposition to share." A hush fell. Lana's pulse quickened. She cleared her throat and placed her portfolio on the table. "Thank you, Nathan. I've been researching market demand for mental wellness solutions tailored to high-pressure professionals. My platform, Pulse, uses gamification principles to encourage daily mindfulness and stress management exercises." She clicked her laser pointer. A slide appeared, Pulse, Bridging Performance and Well-Being. Colorful UX mock-ups showcased progress trackers, social support circles, and AI-curated meditations. Elena tilted her head, eyebrows raised. "Interesting. But, Lana, how does this align with CadeTecha's core AI offerings? We already have wellness APIs." Lana anticipated the pushback. Pulse leverages proprietary engagement algorithms I developed during my MBA. It integrates seamlessly with corporate wellness programs. Our clients, law firms, investment banks, have cited burnout as a top risk. By offering Pulse as an employee perk, we can not only diversify revenue streams but also strengthen our corporate partnerships. She paused, letting the vision sink in. Isabella Cruz, the investor, leaned forward. Her tone polite but curious. "Do you have early metrics?" Lana nodded. "I ran a closed beta at 3 mid-sized firms last quarter. Average daily engagement was 62%, and self-reported stress levels dropped by 18% over 4 weeks. Feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Employees credited Pulse with improving focus and team cohesion." She offered copies of her detailed report. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Nathan cleared his throat. "That's ambitious, dear. But our focus must stay on core AI infrastructure. We're on the cusp of IPO. Any diversion of resources could spook investors." A ripple of agreement spread. Morgan frowned. "Development bandwidth is already tight. We risk delaying our API rollout if we divert engineers to a side project." Elena added, "And our branding is all about enterprise AI excellence. Wellness sounds ancillary." Lana felt her cheeks flush. She inhaled slowly, heart pounding. "I understand your concerns. But if we position Pulse as an AI-driven module under the CadeTech umbrella, we can pre-sell to existing clients with minimal additional development. I've outlined a phased integration that requires only 2 engineers, 1 UI specialist and 1 backend, over 6 weeks." She rattled off her resource plan, stages, cost projections. The investors exchanged glances. Isabella tapped her pen against her notebook. "This could open new markets," she said. But Nathan shook his head. "I'm not comfortable shifting personnel right now." His tone brooked no argument. He looked at Lana's portfolio, then snapped it shut. "Stick to charity events, love. Leave the tech strategy to us." The words hit her like a slap. A hush clamped the room. Lana's mouth opened, then closed. Her hands curled into fists in her lap. No one moved to defend her. The team plunged ahead to discuss IPO timing. A hush of corporate efficiency submerged her proposal. Lana sat rigid, every instinct screaming to argue, to defend her vision. But she knew better than to wing it on the fly. Instead, she cleared her throat. "Understood, she said, voice hollow. She gathered her portfolio, tucked it under her arm, and stood as the next slide advanced. Roadshow schedule, week 1. She offered a tight smile. I'll circulate detailed notes later. She turned and walked out, heels clicking like gunshots in the silent corridor outside. Alone by the windows, Lana watched Nathan through the door's glass pane. He was mid-sentence, pointing at a projection chart. He looked triumphant, secure in his domain. And yet, something unraveled beneath that polished veneer. She pressed her hand to the cool glass, heart hammering. The boardroom chatter felt distant. Beside her, a succulent plant perched on a side table. Lana bent and gently tapped its leaves, then straightened. She couldn't stay here, she needed space to think. Descending 3 flights of stairs, Lana slipped into the company gym. At the far end, a row of treadmills hummed. She set her portfolio on a bench, unzipped it, and withdrew her phone. Opening a secure messaging app, she typed a quick note to her mentor, Evelyn Price. Need advice. Call when you can. She locked the phone, stretched her arms overhead, and stepped onto the treadmill. The belt spooled beneath her feet as she set the speed to a brisk walk. The gentle incline forced her calves to burn. Her mind replayed the meeting, Nathan's dismissal echoing in her ears. Stick to charity dinners. Charity dinners. As if her dedication to social good were all she was capable of. Lana's chest ached with indignation. She dialed a gym headphone jack into her phone and pressed play on her carefully curated playlist, driving electronic beats laced with motivational speeches. She forced herself to breathe in time with the music. Foot after foot, she climbed. The physical exertion burned away the shock, leaving a rising tide of defiance. She refused to be stymied by a single word. Pulse wasn't charity. It was commerce. It was technology. It was her legacy. After 20 minutes, her shirt was damp, her hair escaping its bun. She shut off the treadmill and stepped down, turning to leave, only to bump into Raj Patel, the CTO, who was heading toward the showers. "Lana," he said, surprise flickering across his features. "I wasn't expecting to see you here." She smiled, sweat beading her forehead. Needed some air. The boardroom was stifling. He nodded. "You did a good job presenting. Honestly, your phased integration plan was solid. I wish Nathan had given it more consideration." Lana's heart fluttered. "You do." Raj glanced over his shoulder. "Look, I can't promise anything official, but if you need technical feedback, or even a sympathetic ear, my door's open." She thanked him, and he patted her arm before disappearing around the corner. Lana watched him go, warmth blooming in her chest. Not everyone here viewed her as a mere ornament. Some recognized her competence. Drenched in sweat but invigorated, Lana returned to her office, a sleek glass cube overlooking the city streets. She shut the door and flicked on her laptop. On her desk sat a prototype of her Pulse app loaded on a tablet. She tapped the screen. The progress bar glowed in calming pastel hues. She opened a new document and began outlining her next steps. Secure seed funding independently, assemble a lean development team, launch a pilot with women in tech contacts. She wrote quickly, fingers flying across the keyboard as her mind raced. Every word was an act of rebellion. Outside her window, Nathan's car pulled into the underground garage. She watched the tiny speck of headlights disappear. He would stride into his office soon, ready to conquer the next board meeting, unaware that she was already on a different trajectory. Lana paused, fingers hovering above the keys. She whispered to herself, "They think silence is my weakness. They don't know it's my strategy." She hit save. Then, closing her eyes for a second, she smiled. The mask had slipped, and for the first time, Lana felt the exhilarating rush of unveiling her true self. Lana Ellis sat at her mahogany desk in the quiet of the night, the glow from her laptop illuminating lines of code and circuitry diagrams strewn across the surface. Boxes labeled University Projects lay open beside her, revealing wireframes and flowcharts she had drafted during graduate school. At the bottom of the pile was her favorite folder, Pulse Beta 1.0, which contained prototypes, user personas, and her carefully written journal entries about mental wellness. She set aside the dinner dishes and pulled the folder toward her, fingertips grazing the worn edge. As she flipped through the pages, her jaw tightened with resolve. The world saw her as Nathan's graceful partner, silent and supportive. But behind her composed exterior, her mind raced with ideas. This was the night her quiet awakening would begin. Her phone vibrated, breaking the silence. A message from Evelyn Price appeared. "Lana, I heard about last week's meeting. Impressed you stood your ground. Let's brainstorm on Pulse. Video chat tomorrow at 9. Lana's heart leapt. She typed back, 9 a.m. works. Thank you, Evelyn. With that, she created a new calendar entry titled Pulse Strategy Call with Evelyn. Her schedule suddenly felt expansive, filled with her own ambitions rather than gala rehearsals. She poured a cup of chamomile tea, inhaled its calming aroma, and opened a blank document. Lines of text formed: next steps for Pulse Pilot, partnership outreach, prototype refinement. She worked until the tea went cold, her determination stronger than any fatigue. The next morning, Lana joined the video conference from her sunlit kitchen. Evelyn appeared in her home office, flanked by shelves of books and a potted fern. "Lana, good to see you," Evelyn smiled. Moments later, Malik Johnson, head of corporate wellness at a multinational consortium, and Sarah Chen, a UX specialist, joined the grid. Malik leaned forward and complimented her beta metrics, noting that his firm struggled with similar engagement issues. Sarah examined the shared screen and recommended simplified onboarding tutorials to boost first-time user retention. Lana nodded, taking notes. She proposed integrating Pulse with existing HR systems so data could be anonymized and synced automatically. Evelyn praised the solution and promised keynote stage time at an upcoming summit. Buoyed by support, Lana dove into development. She set her alarm for 5 a.m., determined to work before Nathan awoke. As dawn broke, she sketched updated wireframes on her tablet and tested interactive prototypes on her personal server. She experimented with gentle animation loops for breathing exercises and crafted challenge notifications that felt like friendly nudges. Each small victory, an icon that responded smoothly to a tap, a progress bar that glowed reassuring green, fueled her motivation. By midweek, she had reduced the prototype's load time by 20% and refined the user flow to 3 simple steps. She tracked her progress in a spreadsheet labeled Pulse Sprint Goals, crossing tasks off one by one. Her confidence swelled. One evening, Nathan found her immersed in code while he reviewed investor memos in the living room. He peered over his tablet and frowned. "Lana, you're burning midnight oil again. Don't let this side project distract you from our joint commitments," he said with mild reproach. She closed her laptop gently. "I'm balancing both," she assured him, voice calm but firm. He raised an eyebrow. "Just remember the gala next week and the IPO roadshow prep. We need a united front." She nodded, aware that disagreement might provoke a scene. But inside, she seethed. This wasn't a side project, it was her future. Late nights blurred into pre-dawn hours as she polished the digital wireframes and researched open-source AI libraries to personalize recommendations. She studied algorithms for mood detection and reward scheduling, adapting them to fit Pulse's goals. Her notes became more detailed, her confidence more palpable. She shared early builds with Sarah, who responded with swift UX tweaks and color palette suggestions. Malik confirmed 2 pilot partners had preliminary agreements, a finance firm and a pharmaceutical group. These early commitments gave Lana validation she hadn't felt in years. She added their logos to a mock sales deck, imagining the credibility this would lend. Her heart thrummed with anticipation every time her inbox pinged. Sarah's design guidelines arrived as a carefully annotated PDF. Under low lamplight, Lana implemented iconography changes, improved button affordances, and added subtle haptic feedback for mobile users. Each update was tested on her smartphone and tablet, ensuring consistency. She tweaked copywriting to be more empathetic, take a mindful moment, instead of begin exercise. Her user personas now featured detailed backgrounds, stressed attorneys, ambitious analysts, and dedicated nurses. Testing scenarios played out in her mind like movie scenes. She nailed each adjustment, then stepped back to admire the flowing screens, soft colors, and intuitive interactions. Pulse was transforming from concept to polished product. On a Thursday afternoon, she met Malik and 2 HR directors via video call. One was Monica Reyes, whose firm struggled with high turnover. The other, David Okoro, led wellness initiatives at Greenleaf Pharma. Monica asked about user data security. Lana explained her anonymization protocols and encryption methods. David inquired about integration timelines. She answered confidently, "We can deploy an MVP within 6 weeks, followed by analytics reporting in week 8. The directors exchanged impressed glances and agreed to a small pilot group. Malik smiled. "Welcome aboard. I'll handle the legal paperwork." Saturday arrived and the loft space hummed with energy. Models of skyscrapers and whiteboards filled one wall. Lana set up her laptop on a tall table while investors sipped tea. She began, "Pulse is built for performance-driven professionals who need mental wellness tools embedded in their workflow." A live demo highlighted a user receiving a gentle nudge after 12 hours of intense focus, inviting them to a 2-minute breathing exercise. The room grew still as she advanced through metrics: 68% daily engagement, average session of 5 minutes, and reported stress reductions of 22%. Investors whispered eagerly. Hands rose for questions about API integration, licensing costs, and user support. Lana answered each with poise, earning nods and phone numbers. As the meetup wound down, Evelyn and Sarah flanked Lana. Evelyn clasped her hand and said, "You were spectacular." Sarah grinned. "Your product has real impact." Investors lingered, longer than expected, clamoring for follow-up meetings. Lana realized she had sparked genuine excitement on her own merits. Later that evening, she returned to her penthouse office, adrenaline still coursing through her veins. Nathan awaited her with a congratulatory smile but tempered excitement. "Saw the feedback," he said. "Looks promising. Just remember our priorities." Lana placed her updated prototype and sales deck on his desk. "I'm aware. I'm on track." That night, Lana reflected on how far she had come. Her quiet awakening had grown into a confident stride. She drafted her keynote outline for the Women in Tech Summit. Her personal story of silence and resurgence, the journey of Pulse from concept to pilot success, and her vision for scaling globally. She practiced aloud, "They thought my silence meant compliance. Instead, it spoke of strategy." Below her window, the city lights twinkled like code waiting to be written. A new chapter of her life beckoned, one where her voice would no longer be an echo but a clarion call. She closed her laptop with satisfaction, knowing tomorrow she would wake to a future of her own making. Lana checked her phone once more. Malik had sent pilot agreements. She felt a surge of validation, pride, and anticipation. Quickly, she typed a celebratory message to Sarah, thanking her for UX guidance, then sent Evelyn a note requesting mentorship on scaling strategies. Her desktop glowed with tabs open on investor profiles and analytics dashboards. At 2 a.m., she finally stepped away, mind racing with possibilities. Tomorrow, she would wake determined to claim her path and show the world who she was. Lana Ellis stepped into the private events office atop the Grand Meridian Hotel, her heart fluttering like a hummingbird's wings. The vaulted ceiling arched overhead, frescoed in swirling gold leaf, and crystal chandeliers refracted late afternoon light into ribbons of color. Against one wall, long mahogany tables were laid with dozens of formal invitations, thick ivory cards edged in gold foil, each inscribed in elegant script: Cade Tech IPO Gala, an evening of vision and innovation. Lana smoothed the invitation in her hand, tracing the flourish beneath her name. Tonight would mark Cade Tech's milestone journey to the public markets. Yet more urgently, it would mark the moment she stepped from her husband's shadow. Across the hall in their penthouse loft, Nathan Cade reviewed every detail of the gala on his tablet. At 7 p.m., the red carpet would unfurl before the Grand Meridian's entrance. At 7:30, guests would sip vintage champagne on the riverside veranda. At 8 o'clock, the North Wing would buzz with interactive demos of Cade Tech's groundbreaking AI suite. At 9 o'clock, the main ballroom would hush for keynote addresses. And finally, at 10 o'clock, fireworks would crown the evening celebrations. Under Special Segment, Nathan had typed 3 simple words: Surprise Keynote Speaker. He tapped the phrase twice, envisioning his astonished investors leaning in. He allowed himself a small, private smile of anticipation. In her own suite across the hall, Lana moved among gadgets and garments, orchestrating her own preparations. On a lacquered dresser lay the gown she had chosen, midnight blue silk, off the shoulder but cinched at the waist to accentuate her figure, the hem brushing the floor like liquid twilight. Beside it, a matching clutch, silver heels, and a small jewelry box containing diamond stud earrings, all gifts Nathan had given over the years. She lifted her prototype tablet of Pulse, her mental wellness platform, and watched the familiar pastel waves pulsing across the screen. Her chest tightened with pride. Few knew how many nights she had swapped gala rehearsals for clandestine code sprints, user interviews, and design pivots. Tonight, that hidden effort would surface. A soft knock sounded at the door. Marianne, her personal assistant of 5 years, entered, respectful and steady. In Marianne's hand was a small black envelope embossed with the Women in Tech Foundation's crest. "It's time," she said, voice gentle. Lana exhaled. She opened the envelope and withdrew the program. Under the elegant heading Keynote Speaker appeared her own name, Lana Ellis, founder and CEO, Pulse. A folded note in Evelyn Price's handwriting slipped free. "You deserve this spotlight. You've earned every moment." Lana's throat tightened. She pressed her hand to her heart, letting the truth of those words settle around her like a warm cloak. Marianne handed her a silk-lined hanger holding the gown. "You look incredible already," Marianne said. Lana managed a tight smile. "Thank you," she whispered, slipping behind the dressing screen. She closed her eyes and began the ritual of transformation. A spritz of jasmine sandalwood perfume at her pulse points. Her hair swept into a smooth chignon, secure enough to last the night. Brown eyes defined with smoky shadow, lips brushed in deep rose. Each brushstroke felt like armor against years of silencing. She slid into the gown. The silk felt cool and confident against her skin. At 6:30 p.m., Marianne led her down the grand marble staircase to the waiting black sedan. The driver, Mr. Ford, whose family had chauffeured the Cades for generations, greeted her with a respectful nod. "Ms. Ellis, shall I adjust the climate control?" he asked, gloved hands precise. Lana nodded. "Please." Marianne slipped the Foundation's envelope into her clutch. As they passed under the porte-cochere, a burst of flashbulbs welcomed them. Lana raised her chin, heels clicking as she entered the car, her silhouette framed by reporters vying for a headline. Moments later, Nathan stepped from the sedan's opposite door. He smoothed his lapels, adjusted his cufflinks, and strode forward into the maelstrom of camera flashes. He paused to exchange pleasantries with a New York Times journalist, delivering a quip about AI's promise and the role of ethical leadership. Photographers pivoted from him to the hotel's grand entrance, where guests in tuxedos and gowns filtered inside, champagne flutes gleaming like liquid stars. While Nathan moved to command the red carpet, Lana slipped through a side entrance marked VIP Access, Women in Tech. A uniformed host offered a discreet nod. She entered a plush west foyer bathed in soft amber light. Plush velvet chairs faced a pedestal with a sleek tablet running Pulse's interface, gentle pastel waves, a circular progress tracker, and a notification blinking softly, time for a 2-minute mind break. A small group of board members and VIP guests clustered around, murmuring in excitement. Evelyn Price stood at the head of the group, her silver hair a halo in the warm glow. She extended a flute of champagne. "To your vision," she toasted. Lana touched her glass to Evelyn's. Bubble by bubble, warmth spread through her veins. Around her, directors congratulated her performance in the pilot program. Metrics of 72% daily engagement, 25% stress reduction, and testimonials from real users whose lives had changed. She answered their questions with calm precision, her voice steady. Behind a velvet curtain, she heard Nathan's opening remarks echo through the ballroom's ornate doors. The ripple of applause reached her ears. Engineers, investors, and press lined the rows of chairs. 200 pairs of eyes turned with anticipation toward the stage. Marianne leaned in. 5 seconds, she whispered. Lana inhaled through her nose, centering herself. All those nights of code, of whispered confidences with Evelyn, of drafting slide decks in secret, it had all led here. 3, 2, 1, came the prompt through her earpiece. The curtain parted. She stepped onto the threshold as Nathan's voice rang out, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cade Tech IPO Gala." He gestured grandly toward the audience. Guests rose as one, applauding in recognition of his leadership. Then their attention snapped to the foyer doors. Lana's midnight blue gown caught every sparkle of chandelier light. A hush fell, then broke into murmured astonishment. Nathan paused, mid-speech, eyes widening. He shuffled toward her, opening his arms in invitation, but she advanced past him, measured and unapologetic. He cleared his throat, voice uncertain. "Lana." She offered him only a nod of quiet confidence before stepping to the lectern. She laid her silver clutch beside the microphone, heart pounding in her ears. Then she spoke, "Thank you, Nathan, and thank you all for joining us tonight." The room stilled at the authority in her tone. Tonight marks Cadeteca's next transformative chapter. But true innovation honors the people behind the code. She clicked her remote. The giant screen behind her flared to life with Pulse's dashboard, usage graphs, user quotes. "Pulse saved my career. Team morale soared. I found my focus again." Flashbulbs popped anew as she detailed how brief, AI-guided exercises could be woven into the busiest schedules, reducing burnout and sustaining creativity. Investors leaned forward. Press scribbled notes. Even Nathan's composure slipped into reluctant admiration. When she concluded, "He taught me to stand silent, but tonight I teach you to listen," the applause washed over her like a tide. After her keynote, Lana drifted onto the riverside veranda beneath a canopy of fairy lights. Fireworks burst overhead, painting the sky in ruby and sapphire. Marianne joined her, offering a bouquet of white roses. "You were extraordinary," Marianne said softly. Lana inhaled the cool night air. "I finally feel seen," she admitted, cheeks warm. Nathan stepped out behind her, hands clasped behind his back. He offered his arm, voice low. "Shall we?" She turned to him, surveying the guests still abuzz with conversation and camera flashes. Then she placed her hand lightly on his arm. "Yes," she replied. Together, they re-entered the ballroom's luminous embrace. For decades, Lana had worn silence like a second skin. Tonight, her preparation had become her power, and in her own light, she had not eclipsed her husband but illuminated them both. The morning after the gala, Lana Ellis awoke to a symphony of buzzing notifications. Her phone lay on the nightstand, screen ablaze with red badges, emails, texts, social mentions, and news alerts. She reached for it, heart pounding. The headlines read, "Cadeteca's rising star. Meet Lana Ellis, the woman behind Pulse. Investor gala shocker. CEO's wife steals the show. Silent no more. How Pulse is redefining mental wellness in tech." Even before her feet hit the floor, Lana felt the tremor of change. She padded into the living room to find Nathan seated at the breakfast bar, pouring coffee. The morning light slanted through the floor-to-ceiling windows, gilding his expression, equal parts pride and unease. He slid a mug toward her. "Looks like you broke the internet," he said, voice tight. His gaze flicked to her phone screen. Lana sipped her tea, careful to keep her tone even. "Pulse had over 50,000 visits to our site overnight," she replied. "And the press wants interviews." Nathan set his mug down. "Good work," he said quietly. Then, after a beat, "But we need to manage the fallout." By 9 a.m., Lana was ensconced in Cadeteca's glass-walled media war room. Walls were plastered with printouts of articles, trending tweets, and analytics dashboards charting Pulse's skyrocketing website traffic. Investors were clustered around high-resolution monitors, murmuring excitedly. "Look at these numbers," exclaimed Morgan Blake, COO, pointing to a graph that spiked like a mountain peak. "This could be a game-changer for our Q4 projections." Elena Kim, CMO, tapped her tablet. "Our social channels saw a 300% surge. We need a Pulse sub-brand under the Cadetech umbrella, now." Lana watched Nathan field calls from top-tier news outlets and niche tech podcasts. His voice remained calm, but his jaw clenched with each follow-up question. Was she stepping into a leadership role? How would Cadetech integrate Pulse? Did this signal a strategic pivot? Each inquiry felt like a pinprick to his carefully maintained narrative of solitary genius. When he nodded and promised an official statement, he glanced at Lana, seeking reassurance, perhaps wondering how much control he still wielded. During a hurried mid-morning huddle, Isabella Cruz, the investor who'd championed Pulse in the initial board meeting, caught Lana's eye. "Your vision is resonating," Isabella said, placing a hand on Lana's shoulder. "We've lined up meetings with 3 corporate wellness funds this week." Lana's chest filled with warmth. "Thank you," she said. But her attention darted to Nathan, who was coordinating legal counsel to draft a Pulse-specific NDA. Lana realized Cadetech was already treating her creation as a prized asset, and she had yet to decide whether to share ownership. At lunchtime, She slipped away to the Women in Tech Foundation's pop-up studio in the lobby. Evelyn Price sat behind a ring light, poised to interview her for a live-stream segment. Cameras rolled as Evelyn began. "Lana, tell us how you transformed silence into strategy." Lana leaned into the mic. "I listened, closely, to my own ambition," she said, recalling sleepless coding nights and the sting of being dismissed as just the CEO's wife. She outlined Pulse's genesis, a gamified approach to mindfulness that fits seamlessly into hectic workdays. Viewers' comments flared beneath the livestream. "Inspiring! Where can I sign up? This is overdue." Back on the 37th floor, a spontaneous press conference formed outside the executive offices. Journalists jostled for position as Lana emerged flanked by PR staff. A voice of tech reporter asked, "Ms. Ellis, will Pulse become its own company?" She paused, scanning her prepared statement. "Pulse will continue as a CADE Tech initiative," she declared, "but we're exploring creating a dedicated subsidiary to ensure focused growth and specialized support." Clicks, scribbles, and camera shutters filled the air. Lana realized her words had implications far beyond tonight's headlines. They would shape corporate structure and her own role. That afternoon, she convened a small strategy session with Elena, Raj, and Morgan in the sleek conference suite. On the table lay a mock-up org chart showing Pulse headed by Lana under CADE Tech's parent structure. Elena tapped a node. "If we give Pulse its own P&L and marketing budget, we can track ROI transparently." Raj nodded. "And I can allocate 2 senior engineers full-time, as long as we secure additional funding." Morgan scribbled a draft memo. They debated resource allocation, pricing tiers, and user support workflows, discussions Lana had once yearned to join. Now she led them. Late afternoon light softened against the floor-to-ceiling windows as Evelyn arrived with Malik Johnson from the HR consortium. "Our pilot data is solid," Malik said, spreading printed analytics across the table. 75% weekly retention, 30% productivity boost, employee satisfaction up 28%. Evelyn smiled. "Major wellness funds want to see enterprise-scale deployments. We need to prepare a board presentation by next Monday." Lana exhaled, excitement thrumming through her. She felt the exhilarating momentum of someone finally heeding her silent work. Back in her office, Lana paused at the window to look out over the glittering city. The sun dipped toward the horizon, turning skyscraper glass to molten gold. Her inbox chimed again, a request from TechCrunch for an exclusive feature, an inquiry from a leading VC about a potential seed round, and an invitation to speak at a high-profile mental health summit next month. Each email felt like a testament to her perseverance, proof that her silence had been a crucible, forging not suppression but strength. Nathan entered softly, leaning against the doorframe. His gaze was apologetic. I didn't realize how powerful that keynote was," he admitted. "I'm proud of you." Lana turned, studying him. In his eyes she saw genuine admiration, but also uncertainty. He was learning to share the spotlight he once controlled entirely. She placed a hand on his arm. "Thank you. But there's more to do." She gestured toward the stakeholder reports. "We need to finalize the subsidiary structure and resource plan tonight, before the board votes." He nodded and moved beside her to the desk. They worked side by side, drafting a term sheet and outlining governance roles. For the first time in their marriage, they collaborated as equals, her ideas and his resources coalescing into a shared venture. At 7:30, they sent the finalized proposal to the board's email distribution list. A collective breath seemed to release, not just from them, but from the entire executive suite. That evening, Lana attended an impromptu networking reception on the hotel terrace. Beneath a canopy of fairy lights twinkling like distant galaxies, she mingled with corporate leaders, journalists, and fellow entrepreneurs. Each introduction carried a spark of genuine respect. People greeted her by name, praised her work, and asked for her insights on wellness technology. In her new role as Pulse's founder and CEO-designate, she felt an electric sense of belonging. As the city lights winked on below, Nathan found her by a planter of white orchids. He raised his glass. "To you," he toasted. "To Pulse and to us." Lana clinked her flute against his, savored the moment, then turned back to her growing circle of admirers. She realized her silent move had not only stunned an audience, it had shifted an entire company culture, redrawn the lines of leadership, and set her destiny in motion. The shift was complete. Where once she had been a silent ornament, she now stood in full view as an innovator, strategist, and trailblazer. Silence had been her strategy. Now, her voice guided the narrative. And as the night deepened, with chatter and laughter swirling around her, Lana Ellis understood. Sometimes the most powerful revolution begins not with a roar, but with a single, deliberate step into the light. Lana Ellis woke to the distant hum of morning traffic seeping through her penthouse windows. The sun had barely crested the horizon, yet her phone's persistent glow betrayed the storm brewing in the world below. Headlines plaster her lock screen. Pulse user base explodes overnight. CEO in crisis mode. Female founder outshines husband at IPO gala. Determined, she ignored headlines and focused on how Pulse's rapid ascent signaled a revolution, and that her future lay in its success. By mid-morning, the pulse of activity in CadeTech's offices mirrored the frenzy online. The 37th floor buzzed with urgency. Engineers hovered over dashboards tracking API calls soaring to record levels. The customer support line overflowed with queries from new users. The marketing team drafted campaigns on the fly. Lana navigated the hive of activity, fielding congratulatory nods from colleagues, some brimming with genuine respect, others awkward and hesitant. She realized the company she'd moved through as a silent partner was now energized by her vision. Nathan arrived just after 9, stepping into the control center with measured calm. His tailored suit was immaculate, but his eyes bore a new tension. He approached Lana quietly. "We need a briefing," he said, voice low. "Board meeting at 10. He paused, searching her face. "Are you ready to address the fallout?" Lana nodded. "I've prepared a strategic plan. We can stabilize the messaging, leverage the momentum, and manage investor confidence." She laid out her notes on a glass table, a timeline of PR responses, updated user metrics, and a draft earnings forecast illustrating Pulse's projected revenue. Nathan scanned the pages, his expression inscrutable. In the boardroom 15 minutes later, chairs circled a dark walnut table. The board members took their seats: Isabella Cruz, Morgan Blake, Sophia Reyes, and 2 new faces, the company's lead counsel and a representative from the largest pension fund investor. Nathan stood at the head, flanked by Lana on his right. Cameras from internal video feeds captured the solemn assembly. Morgan began with an overview of pre-market stock movement. "Our shares opened down 12%, he reported, pointing to a green screen graph. Isabella tapped her pen thoughtfully. "The market is reacting to the uncertainty. We need leadership clarity." Nathan cleared his throat. "Pulse is a positive catalyst. We must frame it as an opportunity, not a disruption." His eyes flicked to Lana. "Your testimonial in the live stream was received well. We'll issue a joint statement this afternoon." Sophia chimed in. "Media sentiment on Pulse is overwhelmingly positive. Our social media sentiment index is at 92% favorable." The council recommended legal review of media statements to avoid liability. The pension fund representative asked about projections. Lana stood and presented her revenue model: subscription tiers, enterprise licensing, and in-app wellness marketplace. She fielded questions about reliability, scalability, and compliance. By the end, the atmosphere had shifted. Initial skepticism softened, replaced by cautious optimism. As the board meeting adjourned, Nathan and Lana stepped into the hallway. He exhaled heavily. "That went well," he said, half smiling. "I underestimated how quickly Pulse would capture the narrative." Lana offered a small laugh. "It always had potential. It just needed a chance." He regarded her with new respect. "You've earned every headline." By noon, the joint statement was live. CadeTech embraces Pulse as strategic growth pillar, accompanied by quotes from both Nathan and Lana. Investors responded swiftly. Stock began to rebound, chat rooms quieted or turned supportive, and analysts revised price targets upward. Lana watched the charts with satisfaction, then felt a tap on her shoulder. It was Malik Johnson. "Are you available for a call with the wellness panel at 3? He asked. "They want to discuss enterprise adoption strategies." She checked her watch. "Absolutely," she replied. "Thanks for letting me know." Meanwhile, Nathan convened a press conference in the atrium. Reporters clustered in front of the stage as he delivered a concise message: "At CadeTech, we foster innovation at every level. Pulse exemplifies our commitment to diverse leadership and holistic tech solutions. Flashbulbs popped. Lana joined him for photos, their body language displaying unity. Yet as cameras trained on them, she sensed his grip on the narrative loosening, his legacy entwined with hers, inseparable. That evening, as the sun set behind the skyline, Lana prepared for her first solo panel at the Global Wellness Summit. She reviewed her slides, usage heat maps, corporate testimonials, employee wellness case studies. A black blazer replaced her gala gown, her hair drawn into a sleek ponytail. Standing in front of the mirror, she inhaled steady breaths, then clicked into a video call with Evelyn for final feedback. Evelyn's tone was proud. "You've turned a moment into a movement. Be bold." Lana nodded, confidence surging. At 6, she took the stage to a room of executives, HR directors, and fellow entrepreneurs. Under the bright lights, she shared the genesis of Pulse, the silent hours of ideation, the moments of doubt, and the breakthrough at the IPO gala. She described the science of habit formation, personalized AI coaching, and the human stories behind the metrics. When she concluded, "Innovation flourishes when every voice is heard," the room erupted in applause. Journalists scribbled notes, and slides of her speech trended on social platforms. Late that night, back in her study, Lana checked her messages. The final note was from Nathan. "Dinner tomorrow? We need to talk." She stared at the words. Talk. After weeks of collaboration and shared triumph, he still felt the need to negotiate her assent. She typed, "Sure. Looking forward to it." Then she deleted it and wrote instead, "Let's do lunch." Clicking send, she leaned back, struck by how her quiet shift had rewritten the rules of their relationship. In the days that followed, Pulse's user growth continued its meteoric rise. Corporate pilots expanded to new industries. Mental wellness conferences booked her as keynote speaker. CadeTech's board voted to spin off Pulse as a semi-autonomous division, with Lana as its inaugural CEO reporting directly to the board. Nathan presided over the vote, offering a gracious nod as her name passed by majority. The press hailed it as a landmark moment for women in technology. Lana's phone buzzed with congratulatory messages from mentors, colleagues, and grateful users she'd never met. When she stepped into her new office 2 floors above the main CadeTech suite, she paused at the glass door etched with the Pulse logo, Pulse incorporated inside. The walls were lined with screens displaying real-time user engagement, support ticket statuses, and an ever-updating ticker counting active sessions. She ran her hand along the edge of her desk, the wood warm beneath her fingertips. At that moment, she felt the full weight and thrill of her accomplishments. Nathan arrived with 2 cups of coffee. He set one before her, his expression earnest. "I wanted to be the first to congratulate you." He extended his hand, and she took it. "You've built something extraordinary." His voice softened. "If you ever need anything, resources, guidance, or just a sounding board, tell me." Lana looked into his eyes, remembering the man who had once measured her worth by her silence. She squeezed his hand gently. "Thank you," she said, "but I've learned to trust my own voice." Outside the window, the city pulsed with light, thousands of lives powered by technology, inspired by human resilience. Lana Ellis, once the silent accessory in her husband's narrative, now stood center stage in her own. The fall of Nathan's unchecked authority had given rise to her unstoppable ascent. And as the neon glow painted her office in electric hues, Lana knew that the true legacy of her silence was just beginning. The end. Loved the story? Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and become part of the Morales Stories family. Your support helps us bring more powerful African tales to life. Thanks for watching. We can't wait to share the next one with you. See you soon.